How's it going? I've always been a huge fan of 80s pop music, especially the bands that were coming over from the UK, bands like Duran, Flock of Seagulls, all those pop bands that cranked out those 80s pop hits. I love the floor on the floor, four on the floor style, almost house style pop songs. They were coming out all the time back then, and they were great. But I also love the guitar playing. So the guitar playing is usually not the first thing I listen to when I listen to these songs. I'm concentrating on the drums, maybe there's a synth part going on, but the guitar is doing a lot in a lot of these songs. So I started to dissect a bunch of these, and that's what this list is made of. It's my top 10 favorite guitar parts inside, pop songs. A couple songs on this list kind of go into the rock territory. I got one Billy Idol song on here, but that's about it. No further than that. Other than that, exactly the bands I was trying to mention, kind of mentioning before. Flock of Seagulls, Duran, things like that. So I enjoyed putting this list together. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you, take a look at these parts, try them out yourself. They're a lot of fun. When you listen to the way they work with the song, it's great. These bands were composing excellent parts for the electric guitar, and that's why I put this list together. So I hope you enjoy it. Here we go, number 10. Okay, so the first riff on the list is the main verse riff from INXS New Sensation. It's a very simple part. It's just got two chord shapes, a little bit of funky strumming. But it really serves the song well, and it's not hard to play. And I think that's going to be a common theme among most of these riffs. They're not particularly technically difficult, and they're simple, but they serve the song well, and they don't have to be up front either. So all these kind of just help the groove on all these songs, and this one especially. So it goes like this. Play it up to speed first, and we'll slow it down. So that's all there is to it, but when you put it in the context of the song, it's a really cool little part, and it keeps the groove going nicely, and it keeps your head bobbing. And so it's one of these parts, and that's what all these parts have in common. Again, they're simple, but they serve the song well. We'll do it again slowly. Again, basically it's an inverted E shape here using the bottom three strings. So I'm on the 9th fret on the G string and the 12th fret on the B and E strings. That's a shape I use all the time in worship, and this is another one. So this is just a D, the other button is just a D shape, but moved up here to the A position. So you're just going back and forth. So for the sound, I just got a real clean amp. I have a matchless channel 1 dialed in. I got a heavy compressor. The blend knob is all the way up, so I'm getting nothing but compressor, and I got the sustain turned up to about 1 or 2 o'clock just to get the album sounds kind of squishy. It sounds like it's got a lot of compression on it, so I went for that sound, brightened it up. The tones at about 3 o'clock on that as well. And I also have a little boost in the 4 and 8K on my pedal EQ, so I'm trying to keep it bright because that's what the album sounds like. But it's a cool little part. Give it a try. It's a lot of fun, and you'll see if you listen to the song, it serves the song well, so that's why it's on this list. Alright, so the second one on the list is the intro lick from Tears for Fears, Everybody Wants to Rule the World. They're kind of a favorite band of mine from the 80s. I love their vocals. I think he's probably maybe my favorite male vocalist to come out of the 80s. But their songs were full of these fun little parts that you're never going to forget, and as soon as you hear them, you know exactly what song you're talking about. So this is one of those parts, this intro, you know when you hear it, you know this song, it's unforgettable. It's not all over the song. It goes on in the intro, then I believe it comes back for the bridge. I don't think other than that, maybe the ending, I'm not sure. But again, it's not all over the song, but it's still unforgettable and memorable just for the way it was composed. So I'm going to give it a shot here. We'll hear what it sounds like. So it's really simple. all we're doing is we're sitting on the 7th frets on the B string and the high E string, and then alternating with the 5th fret on the E string. So you're just going 7, 5, 7. And every time you go back up, you're alternating with putting your pinky or whatever have you on the 7th fret. So it's just that back and forth. But an important part is kind of that slide in. That's part of it. If you don't do that, it kind of loses some of its effectiveness. So you slide in from the 3rd fret, and then when you start off, you really want to be staccato picking with some palm muting. And then if you listen to it, he starts opening up on the second half to where it's almost not palm muted at all by the end before the song kicks in. So it's a great part. Again, it's one of these things, you're never going to forget it. As long as you hear it, you'll know it's from that song. And that's why I like these parts. They're not complex, but they're so well written, I would say, and they're unforgettable for that reason. So number 9, that's that. All right, so number 8 is Duran Duran, Hungry Like a Wolf, the verse riff, the intro riff. So this is the first time we're going to a distorted sound. Sounds like a Marshall to me with a lot of chorus, so I'm just using my one of my Van Halen 1984 preset with a little bit of a heavier chorus, so it sounds something like this. But you can listen to the recording. There's nothing special about the tone, just add on a heavy chorus. But it's a neat little part. Again, it starts out the song, so it gets the song going, and then you hear it continue on in all the verses. And I think it's a great part. It adds to the beat, keeps the song moving, and it's a cool part. Sounds like this up to speed. So we're just on an E power chord at the at the 7th fret here on the A, and then I'm using the A, D, and G string. So just a 3-string power chord, and then that pull off is on the D string, starting on the 7th. You go 7, 6, and then 7 on the A string. I tried to listen closely to see if he was doing any kind of extra picking motions. I couldn't really pick too much, so you're safe if you just go. Sometimes I go with that little extra pick there, fills it out again. I don't know if that's on the record, but it sounds okay there. But again, it's a simple part, not difficult at all, but it really adds to the song, and it kind of makes the song. When I think of this song, that's one of the first parts I always remember, and then I know exactly what I'm listening to. So it's another one of these memorable parts that we're never going to forget. Okay, so the next one on the list is the main riff from Michael Jackson's Beat It. That's a famous riff again. Of course, Eddie Van Halen is famous for playing the solo on there. The song is in E flat, so I did grab my Frankenstrat here, which is tuned down half a step. So if you have a guitar that's tuned down half a step and you want to play along with the song, go ahead and take that one, because if you're playing an E, you're going to be a half step high. So it's a pretty basic riff. Again, all of these we're just using the top 3 strings here, so we're using low E, A, and the D string, and it looks like this up to speed. So again, really simple. You're just starting off on a low E string, open string, then you slide from 3 to 7, and then you hit the 5th string on the D string, 5th fret on the D string, I should say, and then you land on the 7th fret of the A string, and then the little tail. So another simple one, but very powerful. It makes the song. Steve Lukather did a great job of playing that riff. To me, it sounds like Eddie. I know, Eddie played the solo and whatnot, but he did a good job of, I don't know, mimicking Eddie, because it sounds kind of like him playing that riff. And I always thought Eddie played all the parts until I looked this up recently. So that was Steve Lukather. It's a great riff. Makes the song, in my opinion, and it's another great one. Alright, so next is the main riff from Prince's Let's Go Crazy. Now, I don't know how I could have any kind of 80s guitar, pop list without mentioning Prince. He's mostly known as just being an artist, but he's actually an excellent guitar player, and he's done a ton of studio work outside his own projects that most people aren't even aware of. So he's a great guitar player, so it makes perfect sense that he'd have all these, neat little parts inside of his own songs. And this is a great one. It's a distorted riff, 2 chords playing F sharp power chord, starting at 2 and 4 fret, top strings, and then we're going up to we're doing a little jump here on the E string from the 7th to the 9th fret, and then we're hitting that E power chord on the 7th fret A string and onward. So again, another great simple part, keeps the song moving. Prince was great at writing these simple parts, and again, he's such a great guitarist, but he's not known for that. So, do a little research on him. Look at what other projects he's played on and go listen to those things. I think you'll be surprised at what a great player he is. So that's why this is on this list. We can't forget to include Prince. Alright, so the next riff is the famous riff from David Bowie's Let's Dance. So that's got that delay on it. Another one that you always know as soon as you hear it. There's a couple of things to this riff. The first is, of course, the delay setting. So it's basically an 1/8 note delay. I have this particular one set for 300 milliseconds, but if you have a delay where you can set it to, time subdivision, set it to 1/8 notes and set your tempo to about 112. You'll get something like this. And so that's the delay. And before we even get into the chords, I'm going to give you the strumming pattern. So it's very simple. It's just important that you get it right, very accurate for the riff to sound correct. If you're off a little bit, it'll just sound messy. So it's 3 upstrokes on each chord. The first is on the first, on a downbeat of 1, and then on the very last 16th note of that first beat. So boom, boom. So 1, and then the last 16th. And then you're going to hold off for a beat, and then you're going to do the 1 on 3. So if you can hear that, you hear the rhythm there, even though I'm not playing the chords. It's just very important that you nail that correctly at the exact right time for the riff to sound right. So the 4 chords are very simple. There's actually only 3 total chords. The first one is... you're going to start off here. So I am on the G string, I'm on the 10th fret. On the B string, I'm on the 9th fret. And on the high E string, I'm on the 11th fret. So it sounds like this in rhythm. And then the next chord, we're just going to go down. I have my G string and my B string fretted with my index finger on the 6th fret, and then on the high string I'm on the 9th fret with my pinky. So and then the next one is just bar 11 on all 3 the G, B, and high E strings, bar the 11th fret. So it's a little bit of an inversion from this. This is the first time around, and that's the second time around. And then after that, it just goes back to the same old, back down here. So you're on 6, on the G and the B, and on 9 on the E. So in time, in rhythm, the whole thing sounds like this. off on that last one. So that's how you can tell. I mean, if you're off just a little bit, it throws the whole thing off. So you really got to concentrate on the timing. And on the record, there are these little bass notes being played with the guitar. I'm not doing that just because I have a crazy delay on. I think they probably double track that. I wouldn't, you know, because he had the delay on. I don't think he could do this. You hear the delay there, it doesn't sound right. So really the record will go something like this. But with the delay on, I wasn't playing the bass notes, but that's the fingerings for those anyway. But the important part is the rhythm and the delay. Just get these 3 chord shapes down under your fingers. It won't take long. That's it, 3 chord shapes, and you got to nail that rhythm. So it's a great one. It's one you'll never forget. David Bowie, you know, he's a master of creating and writing good sounding things that you can just bob your head to, and here's another one. So there it is. Okay, so the next one is the main riff from Police, Every Breath You Take. So this is a great one. Andy Summers, I think, is an underrated guitar player because he first, you know, when you think of the Police, you think of their hit songs, Roxanne, Every Breath You Take. You don't necessarily start thinking of the guitar riffs, but he's a genius player, and he wrote many different parts similar to the one we're going to take a look at here that drove those songs, turned them into memorable classic songs. So this one's pretty simple. We're just doing some arpeggiating. Capo 1, so if you want to play along with the album, you want to be in the right key. Capo it on 1, and we're going to be arpeggiating using the low E string on the 4th fret, the open D string, the G string on the 2nd fret, and the open B string. So it sounds like this, and this will sound familiar to the song. So that's the pattern for the whole thing. It just changes, you know, as the chords go on. So that's the first one. Remember, the only thing you're fretting is the low E string on the 4th and the G string on the 2nd, and you're arpeggiating using the open D and B strings. And then next we're going to go open E string. We're going to do a power chord, so we're on the 3rd fret of the A string and the 5th fret of the D string, and we're going to be arpeggiating with those two in the open E and the open G. Similar fashion. So same pattern. The next one, it just moves up. Here we're starting on the A string on the 4th fret. And you want to make sure that you bar it all the way up because you're going to be using your index finger to hit the 4th fret and then the 6th fret on the B string. You also want to make sure your palm muting is good, so you don't want to be doing something like this. You don't want to have that ring out, so you want to have your palm muting going across the whole bridge, so it sounds like this. So the whole thing put together sounds like this. So it's pretty basic. You just start arpeggiating, just pay attention to the finger positions, get those under your belt, and then the arpeggiating is very easy. It's not fast at all. You just got to memorize the positions. But again, it's a memorable riff. Andy Summers, I believe, is underrated, so listen to the Police, listen for the guitar, and I think you'll hear what I'm talking about. Okay, so the next riff is the rhythm distorted riff from Robert Palmer's Addicted to Love. So if you listen to the song, it's not really the first thing that jumps out at you. It's kind of holding together the lower to mid-end section with the bass, but it's a really cool distorted part. And it fills out the low end, and if you listen to the play between the bass and this guitar part, it's really cool. I originally thought the guitar part was doing a lot more, but that's actually the bass handing a little bit more of that movement if you listen closely. But it goes like this. It's a cool little part. I got a chorus on. In fact, I think just about all these riffs have a little bit of a chorus on them. But this one has distorted, relative, not too heavy of a chorus, but you can definitely hear it. It goes like this. We're just sliding power chords, so it's very simple, just using a standard 3-string power chord. You can see exactly what I'm doing here. It goes like this. So again, it's a simple part, just using the very basic power chords, but it fits in the song great. It fills out that lower end. It gives it a lot of grit and kind of, grease when you're listening to the beat, and it makes for the song. So it's another great one. So if you couldn't guess what I'm going to play next, that is the very start of I Ran by Flock of Seagulls. Another great 80s pop song with a great guitar part in the background. It's very busy. It's got a lot of rhythm going on. He's got a great tone. But what you heard there was just, he's just alternating at the very start there between A up here on the 14th fret and then hitting a very high G inversion with B and high E strings up here on the 15th fret, just back and forth twice. And then from there, he goes into a couple of chords and then into the main riff. So I'm going to turn my delay off and we'll look at the main riff. So this is a really great rhythmic part here. It's a little challenging to get this picking right and stay in rhythm. So I'll give it my best shot here. We'll see what it sounds like. So I have a Dumble amp preset dialed in here on my HX stomp with OCD clone engaged, so it's a fairly dirty tone. And what I have on there as well is a very heavy chorus effect. It's called an Ampeg liquefier. So I'm not sure what that's a model of, but it sounds like a very chorusy, almost like a flanger effect. So I noticed that on the record right away, so I went ahead and tried to dial that in. But let's take a look at the main riff. I'll play through it once here. So that's basically, it's a cool part. He's just hanging out here between the 5th, 7th, and 9th frets, usually on the B and D string. So I'm just going, that's 9, 9, 9, 7 on the G string. And then I'm just alternating 7, 7, 7th fret on the D string on the downstrokes, and then just a muted, I'm not really trying to play the open D. It's more like a muted strum, so I'm just going for something like this. So something like that. And then he does that again, then he goes to the 5th fret and does the same thing down here. And the only change up is that thing at the end. I think I got the rhythm slightly wrong there, but it goes something like this at the end of it. There's that little change up at the end, but again, it's a great little part. Listen to the song; it fits in there great. It goes on for almost the whole song, but even Flock of Seagulls, not a band I would first think of guitar playing for, but they have all these great parts, and that's what the 80s was made of. All these fun parts and made these songs so much fun. They were creative, and they were well written, and they used the effects and whatever amplifiers they were using at the time. They used them well, and they got a great sound out of them. So. Okay, and the last riff on the list. This has always been one of my favorites, and kind of been one of the things in the back of my head that made me think of start making this video. But this is just a rhythm, the verse rhythm part from Billy Idol's Rebel Yell. Makes very creative use of these chords up here using the D, B, and G strings. A lot of same chords that guys like Eddie Van Halen and a ton of guys in the 80s would go on to use them. Racked, Winger, you name it. They all wrote famous songs with these rhythms. But this is a very creative part. I love the way I love these inversions. So first he starts out with a B minor. So in this position here, so we're fretting the 9th fret on the D string and the 7th frets on the B and G string. Sounds like this. That's chord 1, so that's just an inverted B minor. And then we're just going to a standard D, so it would be like the A chord but moved up to the D position. This is number 2. And then we're doing a G major 7 chord, which is a neat inversion I haven't really used too much myself prior to this. So this is, all we're doing here is moving the D string down to the 5th. So now we're on 5th string D, 7th string G, and B string. So those are it, that's it, but it's a great part. If you listen to the song, it keeps the groove moving. So all together it sounds like this. Great part. I love the use of those chords. I'm going to start using those inversions more. It's not something I've, had in my repertoire, especially this major 7 inversion. I always play this chord, but I never really thought to use major 7th inversion, especially in a distorted light, because usually they sound bad, but all these are sounding good. As long as you got your guitar tuned and intonated correctly, these should ring out nicely. So that's it. That's the last one I had here. So I hope you enjoyed this list. I certainly enjoyed putting it together. Like I said, several times already across this video, I love these parts. The way, these bands were using the electric guitar not so much as a primary instrument necessarily, but more like an accessory, something in the background. I love the way they use that, and it's something I'm, going to try and develop my own parts in a similar style. You don't always have to be up on Front Street when you're playing electric guitar. So I love parts like this. They were so creative back then. I'm so glad I was able to, be a part of it as it was happening, and I'm so blessed that we're able to just listen back anytime we like, because it's great music. It's great guitar playing. So again, I hope you enjoyed this list. I certainly enjoyed making it. Have a good night.